What's going on, YouTube? BBS Pete back with another video. Been in and out of YouTube for a while. Been observing a whole lot of things, and it's a whole lot of BS going on right now in the YouTube community, man. In particular, it's a lot of people on YouTube that like to instigate fights, that love to instigate conflict. You understand? In particular, phony TV, pandemic TV, lame ticket TV. Y'all know who I'm talking about. And I'm going to make a statement in regards to this dude later on today, or the most definitely tomorrow, because I feel like he crossed the line with FYF sports debates, bringing up his past transgressions. But you know what? That's a video coming up later on today, maybe tomorrow. But because I have a whole lot to say, in particular, as to why I think Ticket TV is a phony and a fraud and a straight up fake. But that's neither here nor there in this video. In this video, I want to talk about just the blatant disrespect and disregard to the career of Scottie Pippen. I'm starting to notice lately that a whole lot of extreme Michael Jordan fans, extreme Jordan fans, in recent years love to diminish Scottie Pippen in his career. It seemed like to me they totally forget the impact he had on those Chicago Bulls championship teams. I mean, it wasn't all Jordan. I mean, Jordan was the most dominant player, but they act like it was all Jordan all the time. He was the one doing all the assists, steals, blocks, scoring all the points. Jordan was the most dominant and the most important player. But I feel like Scottie Pippen was his most consistent, all-around player. You understand? Scottie Pippen, who's easily a top 50 player of all time, He's easily a top 50 player all the time. I've got him in maybe around the late 30s, early 40s, maybe. Most definitely late 30s. He's hands down a top 10 small forward of all time, The only people you can make a case that are ahead of him are LeBron, Larry Bird, Dr. J, Elgin Baylor, and, I would have to put Kevin Durant ahead of Elgin Baylor, just slightly ahead of Elgin Baylor. You understand? And it's apples and oranges. You can go back and forth in that regard. But, yeah, I would have to put Kevin Durant, slightly ahead of Elgin Baylor. And after that, Scottie Pippen is in that next tier of small forwards of all time. I mean, you can make a case for John Havlicek, but I feel like Scottie Pippen, the numbers may not tell the whole story. I feel like Scottie Pippen was more dominant, especially on both sides of the ball. Rick Barry, I consider him more of a hybrid tweener between shooting guard and small forward. I mean, he's considered a small forward. Then you guys like Bernard King, Adrian Danley, Bob Dandridge, Paul Azarin, James Worthy, of course. But, a lot of those guys, people make an argument over Pippen. But for me, the impact he had on both sides of the ball gets very underlooked, and it gets very disrespected. You understand? As far as, this whole narrative that extreme Mike fans, they want to downplay his all-time standing just to prop up Jordan even more, which I feel like is a bunch of BS if you ask me. You know, one thing they got to understand is when Scottie Pippen came to the Chicago Bulls in 1987, he instantly had an impact. The numbers may not say much, but as the years went on, he started, his points per game went up, steals per game went up, and steals per game went up. You know, and for me, I don't understand how all of a sudden Pippen is looked at as this just another guy along for the ride. Don't get me wrong, I'm the biggest Jordan fan around. You understand? But you can't tell Michael Jordan's story without Scottie Pippen because he did have some impact. You know, the Doberman defense. Jordan was an all-war defender, along with Scottie Pippen. You understand? Him and Pippen terrorized backcourts in the NBA, especially during the first championship. You know, when you look at Scottie Pippen, all-around game pretty much impacted the game from start to finish. You understand? And a lot of times he shared defensive responsibility with Mike, you know, and it wasn't always Michael Jordan that guarded the other team's best player. You just go back to those Eastern Conference games against the Detroit Pistons. He was sharing some responsibility in guarding Isaiah Thomas. And was damn good effective at doing that shit too. Go to the NBA Finals. Magic Johnson shared responsibilities in guarding Magic Johnson. Basically turned that series around. His defense turned that series around. Game 2, Michael Jordan's in foul trouble, right? And you can't afford to lose Michael Jordan. You can't afford to lose Jordan, especially in that situation. Scottie Pippen comes in. They switch Pippen on Magic Johnson. He basically none avoids Magic Johnson's impact on that game. And basically most of the series. I mean, don't get me wrong. Michael Jordan did share responsibility in shutting down Magic, but when he got in foul trouble, Scottie Pippen took up the slack. And you got to think, Game 2 was pretty much turned around in part because Scottie Pippen's defense and all-around play in that series. And I don't understand how he's not regarded as a superstar of that era. You know, he was easily, by 1990, he was easily a top 10 player in the NBA. You understand? And top 10 in the NBA in the 90s, you're automatically an all-star / superstar. By 1991-92, he was a superstar in the NBA. I don't care what nobody says. I don't care what nobody tries to spin it, try to make Michael Jordan greater than what he already is. And think about it, the only reason he wasn't an all-star in 91 was because he had missed a whole lot of games to the point where it impacted his all-star standing. When you had Larry Bird, Dominique Wilkins, Charles Barkley, all those guys played more games than Scottie Pippen that year. Because Scottie Pippen, I think, only played, 72 games that year? Whatever. But yeah, the more games you miss, the more impact it'll have on your overall numbers. But here's the thing, though. Scottie Pippen was easily a top 10 player in the 90s and a superstar. And, Prince Sports wants to bring up this notion that Scottie Pippen didn't have no impact on those Chicago Bulls championships. Which I love my boy Prince, I love my dude Prince, but I just disagree with that whole argument. I'm sorry. No, that's far from the truth. And you fast forward to the 93-94 season, they could have easily have went under once Jordan retired. But Scottie Pippen put together one of the most dominant seasons of his career, I feel like. And that whole 93-94 season, he was one of the front runners for the MVP. And that team won like 55 games, only 2 games less than what they had the year before. And you got to think that they were still a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference. The only team that was better was the Atlanta Hawks and the New York Knicks. And that whole season, Scottie Pippen easily had a case for MVP. And if it hadn't been for the exploits of Akeem Olajuwon that year, Scottie Pippen probably wins MVP that year, hands down, for the way he kept the Bulls afloat and the way he kept them in contention. And you got to think, if it hadn't been for that BS call in Game 5 of the Eastern Conference semifinals against the Knicks, they go up 3-2, right? They go up 3-2. They go up 3-2, go back to Chicago, and the Knicks, even without Michael Jordan, had trouble with the Bulls in Chicago. There's no doubt in my mind that if the Bulls steal that game, Chicago steals that game in New York in Game 5, it had to be for that BS bogus call, which I feel like that wasn't even a foul, you know. That was basically a BS bogus call, you know. If that call is not placed, it's not made, they go up 3-2. They go to Chicago, they beat the Knicks, they advance to the Eastern Conference Finals against the Indiana Pacers. In my opinion, they beat the Pacers, in my opinion. They go to the NBA Finals, and who knows what happens after that. So, like I said before, you know, that whole 93-94 season basically propelled Pippen into a top 5 player of all time. Because you got to think, the only players that were better before Jordan came back the next year, and you got to think, the only reason that team in 94-95 struggled before Jordan came back, when you lose your best rebounder, key contributors to the bench, Horace Grant left, B.J. Armstrong left, John Paxson retired, Bill Cartwright retired. Well, Bill Cartwright was way past his prime, but still. 2 key figures in your championship team leave, you're going to struggle record-wise. You know, dealing with new players, a new system, you know. It's still a triangle offense, but still, new players have to get acclimated to a system. And like I said before, Scottie Pippen was easily a top 5 player in the league by the mid-90s. The only players that were arguably better were Hakeem, Jordan, Malone, and Shaq. And probably after that, Pippen falls into that top 5. You got to understand, guys like David Robinson had started to decline. David Robinson had started to decline by 95, 96. Charles Barkley been started to decline. So, yeah, I mean, Scottie Pippen was easily a top 5 player by 95, 96. 2 top 5 players on one team, plus you got the best rebounder. Like, yeah, you know, Pippen gets blatantly disrespected by everybody, man. It seemed like they treat him like a role player, which is flat out BS to me, you know. And even still, he was putting up elite numbers in those finals, and his impact was undeniable. Even Jordan, in one of his interviews, post-game interviews, the fourth championship or the fifth championship, one of those championships, he said it out loud. And you can go back and look at the tape, no lie or anything. Michael Jordan admitted Scottie Pippen was the MVP of the Bulls in that particular series. So, and then even when he went to Houston late 98, 99, he still had somewhat of an impact. It's just that by that time, Olajuwon was way past his prime and had declined. Charles Barkley been declined, was holding on by a thread. I don't even think he was the second best player on that team at that point. And then by the time he got to Portland, Scottie was just a shell of his former self. Age and attrition and various kind of injuries started to take over. So for me, I just feel like the whole thing surrounding Scottie Pippen is full of BS and full of phony arguments just to try to prop up Jordan more. Don't get me wrong. Michael Jordan was hands down the MVP of those teams and the best player in the league. But to act like Scottie Pippen was some type of bum along for the ride is just some bullshit to me. It has been bullshit for the past several years. I don't know why Michael Jordan fans feel the need to diminish Scottie Pippen. I don't know. I don't understand that shit. I never will. I don't understand it all, man. It's just, I don't get it. Maybe it's something I miss. But like I said before, Scottie Pippen is probably one of the most disrespected all-time greats in recent years. And for me, it's like a lot of extreme Michael Jordan fans don't give this man his proper respect and due or his credit at all, But hey, maybe it's me. Maybe I look at basketball, look at the game a different way. But let me know what everybody think in the comment section.